You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn connects you with experts from all over the world to help you take charge of your career, your business, and your life. Rap along with us. Visit drjacalyn.com to learn how to become a guest or a sponsor. And now, the doctor is in.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Welcome from wherever you are joining us in the world. We are so thrilled to have you here today. This is our fourth show today. Yay! And this is one of my favorites. You are watching Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn. It's all about dating. Doesn't everyone talking about dating and relationships and romance and breakups? Ooh, not so much on that. Anyway, I'm your host, executive producer, director, and broadcast engineer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and I am joined as always by my co-host and friend, Lisa Manyoky, in the house. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I am well, thanks. How are you?
4 shows in, and you still look great.
A little red lipstick will do you, you know? We were having a little bit of a crisis technology-wise for my board, and it was just a little button that was pressed in because a cable fell on top of it. So it's just, yes.
This happened during today.
Yeah, I have this huge board, right? As you know, I've got 3 computers that I'm broadcasting. We're actually broadcasting on Business Talk Radio out of New York, and we're on 4 Facebook pages, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. And then our show becomes a podcast on 5 other platforms. So everything happens with this board. And if one little thing isn't right, then it's not going to work out too well. But here we are. So I'm thrilled that you're with us. We have a great guest today. I can't even believe it. I'm so excited. We just met briefly backstage, Dr. Nancy Lee. She is a clinical psychologist, and she's written a book, the coolest title ever, Don't Sleep With Him Yet. And I'm going to wait for the tagline so she can fill us in on that. But before we bring her out, I want to hear what you're doing over at Presence Intelligence and how you're helping daters with profiles. So will you share that with us, Lisa?
Well, the good news is that now that the world is opening up again, and it is, I'm hearing that certain masks restrictions are being lifted within reason. That means that the ability to go out and meet people is coming back into style, which is a wonderful thing. So if you want to increase your chances of success in the dating arena, then it's in your best interest to first understand who you are, and then make sure that the rest of the world can see that, which happens when you align what you think, feel, and believe on the inside with what you project on the outside. And that is best done with support. So I work with clients and use the Presence Intelligence Alignment Inventory, which is an interactive Q&A and then an hour of time with me after to explore what makes you who you are and to make certain that those best parts are making their way to the outside, which, if aligned, will increase your chances for dating success.
Your work is so important, Lisa, and you're so good at it, and you're so passionate about it. I love it. Your face lights up and just, yay.
It's so important, though. It's so stressful to not be who you are. You know, it's so stressful.
I know. It definitely is. And it takes so much work to pretend to be somebody that you're not. So why not just show up as who you are? And if you need some work figuring that out, work with a coach, work with the psychologist. So let's bring out Dr. Nancy Lee. She is a wealth of information. Hello, Dr. Nancy Lee. So nice to see you.
Oh my gosh, ladies, I'm so excited to be here and have a conversation with you.
We can't wait for this one.
Yeah, my favorite topic too. Dating and mating and attraction and sex and all that fun stuff.
Flirting. It's all important.
Oh, flirting. Oh, good.
Dr. Lee, are you joining us from California today?
Yes, and I was thinking, wow, you're in New York, I'm in California. Look at tech and technology. I know lots of technology bloopers. Yes, here in California, we're supposed to have sunny skies, but it's gloomy. So Anyhow, yeah. Coast
Well,
to
you're
coast.
smiling and sunny, so that's all that matters, and we're thrilled
Oh.
that you're here. You're doing a lot of great work helping people, and as I mentioned, I know you're a clinical psychologist and you've written this book. I didn't want to give the tagline away. I wanted you to do it yourself, so I'm going to spotlight you. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about you and how you got started on the path that you're on today?
Oh, cool. Do we have 2 hours? No, just kidding. So I'm a clinical psychologist here in beautiful Beverly Hills. I've always loved psychology. I also was that kid at like 13 years old who read Cosmopolitan magazine, actually hid the magazine from my mother. My parents were very conservative. So I would be already at 13 reading these articles about attraction, and not that I don't think I dated till my 20s, honestly, but dating and things having to do a little bit with, sex and sensuality. So anyway, flash forward, when I was in college, I was also very interested in biology and neuroscience. So I combined those two, majored in psychobiology, went on, got my doctorate in clinical psychology. That was at UT's Southwestern Medical School at Dallas. So very medical oriented. Came back to Los Angeles, which is where I'm from originally, and did a postdoctoral fellowship in behavioral medicine at UCLA. At UCLA Medical Center, Harvard UCLA Medical Center, and then basically opened up shop as a psychologist. Flash forward, decades later, I work with anybody adolescents on up, and range of things, depression, anxiety, all sorts of things. But what I really became passionate about was helping men and women both thrive in relationships. So whether they were single, whether they were with partners, married, I'm going to stop there because that kind of brings us to the beginning of the path of the book, but maybe that helps people understand a little bit about who I am.
Thank you for sharing that. What I took away from that is that you're a brilliant, a highly educated, beautiful woman who is spending her life helping other people. So thank you so much for, again, everything that you're doing. And you just have this glow about you. And like I mentioned,
I think it's a light. I think it's a window, honestly, trying to move my chair a little bit. But
no, you obviously
You're really kind. Thank you. I appreciate that. So I try really hard. I love what I do. And I think, Lisa, you were saying at the introduction, be who you are. Like, I think that resonates for people professionally as well. Choose something you like to do. And it's that 10,000 hour rule where it takes 10,000 hours to get good at anything. Even the Beatles, needed those 10,000 hours. But when you really are who you are and do what you want to do, it comes through.
Yeah, you won't break a sweat. It's easy.
Yeah.
Unless there are technology problems.
Right.
And
that's why none of us is a technology expert, because we would break a sweat all day long, right?
Dr. Lee, you shared some of your background, and then you wrote this book, Don't Sleep with Him Yet, which I think is really amazing, because as a woman, yes, we go through our whole life, should I, shouldn't I, when should I, what do I do afterwards? It's very confusing. And I think that we grow up with a lot of shame, confusion, guilt. So if you would share with us, what was the catalyst for you to write the book?
Okay. And I'll tell you, I'm going to show you the book and tell you the full title. Don't Sleep with Him Yet, A Badass Guide to Dating in 10 Empowering Steps. So about maybe 7 years ago or so, I started noticing in my practice that women especially were really struggling. Single women were really struggling across the board. So this is anything from even women early, like late teens, early college years, honestly, all the way up to women, even in their 60s and 70s. So across the board, really, really struggling. And why were they struggling? It was like, wait, if I don't sleep with this guy immediately, he's going to drop me. Or I'm on a lot of panels. So, for example, some of the schools, UCLA, local schools, UCLA, USC, Claremont McKenna, but I'd be on these panels also talking to students. And then afterwards, young women would, some of the students, especially girls, young women, girls would approach me and they'd be like, I don't even have a social life because I'm expected to hook up. And if I don't hook up with a guy, it was all very convoluted. So that got me really thinking, like, why, again, all these, bright, articulate, really talented, great women who were, they were confident and self-assured in their, in their academics, in their professional lives, but they were, when it came to dating and men, sure, I have to do whatever they want, even if it went against their grain. So does that help answer your question about the catalyst?
Yes, it definitely does. And one thing that we've heard, at least I've heard throughout the course of my life over and over again, and I know it's changed over time, but it's the 3-date rule, where you are expected to have some kind of, yes. So I don't even, because I'm not dating, I don't even know if that exists anymore. But do you think that those social norms are out there still, where you're expected to do certain things by a certain number of dates?
Okay, so that, and by the way, the one chapter, the catalyst, turned into one chapter out of 10, by the way, which is, I'll tell you more about the book in a moment. It's interesting, Dr. Jacalyn, that you mention it, because I say throw out all the rules, okay? And by the way, the 3-date rule was not, it was not written. I mean, that 3-date rule was concocted by a guy. A woman would have never made that rule. You've got to go with the rule of your head and your heart, okay? Who is anybody to say there's like the 3-date rule or the 90-day rule, which I say like 90 days is great as a return policy, but it's so random. Like, who's to say that 3 dates or 90 days or 3 months before you have to sleep with somebody? Like, the rules are random and arbitrary. Every relationship is different. Every person is coming with a different background, different values, different context. Sometimes, like, honestly, hooking up right away with somebody can be fine, depending on what the situation. And other times it may take a couple of years. So really every situation is different. I hate shoulds. I hate rules when it comes to something as intimate as personal as sex.
Very well said. Thank you. I love the fact that in your subtitle you have the word empowering, because I just, when I think about that, it's like I stand up taller and in my chest, I just feel better, empowered. So we're going to take a break and hear from some of our sponsors. I would love if after this break or the next one, you would read part of your book to us, a part that is special to you or has some meaning. Would that be okay?
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'll check it out. Okay. Yeah, maybe let's do it after the second break.
Excellent.
That gives me more. Okay, cool.
Excellent. Sounds good. All right. Thanks so much. Stay with us here on It's All About Dating with my co-host Lisa Manyoky and our special guest, Dr. Nancy Lee.
Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to Story Garden. Your host, Diane Boehm. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Diane Floyd Boehm tells wonderful stories that warm the heart, spark the imagination, and unite people and families across generations. For children, Diane's Harry the Camel connects with all of us who've ever wondered how different our lives might have been if only we'd been born something better, like a wonderful horse instead of an ordinary camel. In the end, we all learn along with Harry that there's nothing better than just being yourself. Diane's Little Girl in the Moon looks down on earthbound children and wonders if they know she's just like them. A story of love, home, and the bond between mother and daughter, its powerful theme that we're each of us different yet all of us the same plants a seed in children that promises to blossom within a loving and trusting grown-up. Diane's new biography, Rise, recounts the experiences of her grandmother, Ruby, to reveal the hidden strength of the human spirit. Ruby's story inspires all of us to become the best versions of ourselves. You'll find all of Diane's delightful books and much more at dianefloydboehm.com. Visit dianefloydboehm.com. That's dianefloydboehm.com.
Networking sucks and people suck at it, but nothing gives me more life than walking around and talking to people in an audience and really being able to identify, okay, I see where you're having trouble, let's work on fixing it. How do you help them? How do you provide value? My goal is to give them those tools to be able to go out and tackle that fear. Anywhere there's coffee is where I'll be. So I bring candy a lot to my speaking engagements. Like, of course that makes sense. I'm a little unconventional.
Ashley was very knowledgeable.
Very entertaining.
I learned a few new things, and to me that's the key.
What do you want them to say? How do you want to be perceived? You're going to get the most direct, tactical tips and practical takeaways when it comes to networking. These two here are super important. You'll remember once the conversation starts.
I love the tips that she gave out. I hate networking with a passion, so I feel like I can go to a meeting or event and not feel so uncomfortable.
When you're going to a presentation, you want to be educated. You also want to be entertained.
She was really fun and really personable, and everything she was saying was just very relatable.
She's got a lot of great ideas.
That will make you stand out so fast.
She comes across as someone that likes what they do and just doesn't try to sell you something.
Activity breeds results. If you're not doing anything, you're not going anywhere.
Just made me want to start networking, which I never thought I'd say before.
A networking strategy that works for you.
It's what we do together that counts. The Big Alliance story. A true story about faith over adversity, perseverance, and entrepreneurship. Read Earl's story and how he became an entrepreneur. Available on Amazon, Kindle, and Audible.com. For more information, contact Earl Hurd at earlhurd@bicalliance.com or call 1-800-460-4242.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Hello and welcome back to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn. It's all about dating. My co-host Lisa Manyoky is here, and our special guest joining us from California, Dr. Nancy Lee, clinical psychologist and author, and overall a brilliant and talented woman. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Yeah, I love having this conversation with you. Thank you so much for having me. It's a real treat being here.
Well, here's a really important question. So we've had a number of different guests on the show, matchmakers, dating coaches, males and females. And recently we had one professional come on to say that after sex, that men can find women less attractive, that due to a testosterone drop. So is there any, now you're a clinician, so you bring some new dimension to this. Can you shed some light on the veracity of that?
You know what? That's a really good question. That's an excellent question. So there is a research study that shows, I'm going to put it in context. It's not just any men, but the more sexual partners a man has, so the more women that he has slept with, or the more women he has seen naked, if you will, intimately, the less attractive he will find his partner after first intercourse. Which is really, really and by the way, I want to emphasize that I have 100 references in the book. So this particular study it's referenced in there. That's so, when you really think about that, it basically defines a player, right? So a player is a man who is primarily concerned with, he dates for sexual gratification. Basically, okay, he dates to hook up and to have sex, and he will say anything and do anything to make that happen, including leading women on and lying to them. But what's so interesting, so no, it wouldn't be just, as far as, I have never seen any studies. And remember, I went through my background because I am very science and data based. I've never seen any study that has said, like, any man will find a woman less attractive, but definitely the more women a man has slept with, he will find his partner less attractive. Does that help answer the question?
It does. I think I had read it was the affective shift hypothesis. That's the article I'd read about it, that said that the more sexual partners a man had, that effect, they had to have the context. It wasn't just a chemical drop.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
It's
no thank
right.
you.
Exactly. It's very psychological based, but I think it's really important to know that, like, that kind of, that makes a player even less attractive to women. That's also explains why players get very bored with their partners, right? I mean, men typically do not, if they're if they're really attracted to a woman, and even if, we talk about end game and what he wants, what she wants, but even if it is just about sex and it's a guy that is not a player, okay, maybe he doesn't want a committed relationship, but he still, is really lustful for this woman and infatuated. Oh no, he can still find her beautiful, after they sleep together. That doesn't mean he's going to commit, ladies, by the way. And it doesn't mean you're in a relationship if you're sleeping with somebody. But if this guy is a play, the difference between just a guy who isn't a player, who maybe has not slept with a lot of women, or at least not a lot of women recently, would be that guy will still be very into the women. Of players get their attention span is down. They sleep with somebody, they're bored, and they're off to the next person.
So on that note, what kind of tip can you give women and men? Because I know some stories of some women who are just as guilty of being players, just females. What tips can you give an individual to recognize that, oh my gosh, I have a player sitting across the table from me, run, don't walk?
That's an excellent question. Just get to know him. Look at especially one really key question to ask is what really, have you just been in a relationship? Have you broken up? The guy who's very sophisticated, and look, players are they tend to be bad boys. They can be very seductive. They know what to say. They know what to do. But when you really pry a little bit, you can see, wait a minute, they've dated, 6, 7. Look, I'm in LA, Hollywood, so sorry. We have models and actresses in this, but they've dated every beautiful, with 6, 7 beautiful women within the past year, but you don't get a sense of them having had a relationship. So that's kind of key. And if you get to, and look, that's another reason for waiting. If you get to know somebody, if you get to know who you're, effing, it comes out. You'll see some of it. You'll see some of those signs. Players, by the way, are not narcissism is another problematic guy, and women, by the way, but they're not, that they overlap with players, but not necessarily the same.
I will
and
never.
By the way, sorry, Lisa, I'm so excited and passionate about the topic. You have to stop me, okay? Like, tell me to zip it, or I'll just keep talking. But I have a whole chapter on men to avoid and signs and all of that, and players are in there. So are narcissists.
Well, I think waiting is the best. I will never forget. I went out. This was a while ago. Went out with this lovely gentleman. He owned a company. He talked about his catamaran trips, how his kids went to boarding school. I mean, he was obviously wealthy. And I think we had, one of those marathon dates. And second time we went out, his proposition was that, he called it a proposition, that he wanted to be sexually exclusive, but free to date other people. I said, what? So at the end of the night, when you're out with another woman, you're going to say, oh, sorry, can't smooch you because I'm exclusive with Lisa. And he said, yeah. And I said, okay, well, when you find that woman, would you please introduce her to me? And he said, why? I said, don't come punch her.
Great. Exactly. And and there you go. Like, when he said that, didn't you get like, what was your reaction, Lisa? Was it like an own?
I said I'd like to meet her because I could punch her. And I said, and I picked up my coat. I said, good luck with that plan.
Yeah, great response. But you see also, exactly. So you started talking to him, and that came out like, hello. That is and by the way, that's very transparent, a transparent attempt at gaslighting. I mean, it was like, like, hello. He wanted both ways. He wanted you, and he wanted do what he wanted, his freedom.
But
I would think that probably somebody else has already agreed to that, and that's probably why that person wanted to try it with you, right?
Maybe.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point.
He obviously, there might have been another person with whom he'd made that same agreement.
Right. Which gets right back to this sort of empowerment and the theme of the book. Why are women doing that? Like, why would any woman agree? Like, why would she agree to that? It's also all about, like, my second chapter, there's 10 steps in here. So steps are synonymous with chapters. My second one is all about building confidence, how, really building confidence and feeling like that self-esteem, because what you feel is also what you're going to bring to a relationship. You're not going to women are acculturated to being people pleasers, right? So that, like Dr. Jacalyn, as you mentioned, there was probably some women who went along with that. She's not pleasing herself. She's pleasing the guy, right? So I have a whole chapter in here on, I'm also all about actionable tools. It's not enough to say, hey, be confident, or, you have to really have tools to be able to get there. That was a really very interesting example, an anecdote you gave.
I have more.
Okay, no, I love them. I
just want to say hi to a few folks. We did have someone from Brazil who he said hello, so I just wanted to acknowledge. I don't know if it's a he or she. Per Siag 91, greetings from Brazil. Hello, nice to have you. Joining us from London, Cindy Wilcox. I don't know where Ann Dunn is, or Mohammed Shorfi, or Bill Jones, but hello to all of you. So I was going to say, when we were talking before about pleasing the men, I know from growing up that I always thought it was important to put the guy first, always. And I always put the guy first. And what happened was my self-esteem went like this, shrinking. And I would get involved in relationships with narcissists or players. So I hate to admit it, but it's true.
There you go. Yeah. And there's also a difference between putting somebody first when there's not resentment. Okay. So the term people pleasing has resentment in it. Sometimes it's actually kind of thrilling and fun to be like nurturing, and you do like want to do this 4-year, look, I'm in a long-term marriage. Okay. So, there are times where it feels really great. I want to do this for my husband. I'm not talking about sex with, that's a whole other show, right? Like a whole other segment. But I want to, I want to do things for my partner, right? And women and men feel that way. Like, that's great. But the difference between that and people pleasing is when you're doing things you don't really want to do and you start resenting it. And look, that doesn't necessarily, it happens to women in romantic relationships. It happens to women at the PTA, right? Somebody asked, take on, can you bake 1,000 cookies and have them here by the next hour? I mean, I'm obviously exaggerating, and somebody will say yes, but she really doesn't want to do it. Okay. There's that resentment. Same way as, two people be dating, a guy wants, oral sex right away or something. She doesn't really want to do it, but yet she gives in, and that is people pleasing.
And so in a case like that, where someone performs that act and is people pleasing, does the guy really think that much about the person? Because it's not like it's something the person wants to do and probably is resentful later.
It's a great question. And by the way, I didn't mean to go from like the PTA to oral sex. It's just kind of strange more. It's a really strange morning for me here. You know what's Dr. Jacalyn, I love your question because it reminds me of, so research shows, and this is research, meaning when I was writing the book, I went through men's magazines. Even I went through anything from Scientific Journal, Archives of Sexual Behavior to to any men's magazine out there. Most of the surveys show that men do not care about a woman in a hookup, okay? But they do really care in a relationship. So a hookup, by the way, just to, kind of get terminology clear. So a hookup is typically defined as a casual sexual encounter. The setting is usually less formal than a date. There is not the expectation of a relationship, nor is one precluded. So when two people are hooking up, it's typically less formal than a date. Generally, no expectation from either person. To answer your question, in those situations, guy, and again, I'm oversimplifying, but it has a lot of truth. There's a lot of truth to this. Guy doesn't care. He doesn't really care about the woman's pleasure. He just cares about getting off. I mean, excuse me, being a little bit crude. In an ongoing relationship, a man will tend to care a great deal about the woman's pleasure. And because he wants, first of all, he's in a relationship, he's developing, maybe he loves her or he's developing those feelings. And he also wants to make sure, he wants to keep her away from other men. So he wants to keep her happy sexually as well. Mm-hmm. I digressed a little bit, but does that help?
Yes, definitely helps. Yeah, for sure.
And by the way, so sometimes people get confused between between dating and hooking up. So dating psychologically is defined, and hello, this is all about dating, as getting to know somebody romantically. That's very different than hooking up. That's not wham bam, thank you, ma'am.
So, and I don't even know what the app is, but I know there's the thing you swipe, and it's my nephew was telling me that's a hookup site. So Tinder. I guess Tinder. Okay, so I guess both parties understand that then.
Well, it's known as a hookup site, but I also know people who have legitimate relationships that developed from Tinder. So it's what you make it.
Yeah, Tinder is all over the map. I get my 6th chapter, by the way, is all about online dating. And I mentioned when I was writing this, I went to 2 weddings, couples met on Tinder. So it kind of has that. I think a little bit of a stereotypical, it's a hookup act, but I agree with you, Lisa. It's all over the map. And it just depends on what people want. There's everything everything out there is on Tinder. Whereas, like, for example, might compare it to Hinge, and Hinge relaunched, I think it was in 2016, as the relationship app. So they purport to be all about relationships, but really any app you find, you just find a whole variety of what people's goals are.
A friend of mine 2 days ago told me about an app I never heard of. By the way, I never heard of Hinge, but this one is Raya, Raya. So I went and applied. I'm not interested in dating anyone, but I went to apply just to see, and I was put on the wait list. So I guess that's not a good sign.
And that's interesting. Yeah, new ones keep sprouting up. One in LA that's become sort of popular, The League. I've heard mixed things about it, but the person, the Tinder. I don't know if you guys know this story, but you probably do. But some of your viewers may not. So Tinder was founded it first got going at USC by some fraternity men, and really, when you think about it, there's I love the philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer. And I'm going to bring this back to Tinder, believe me, but one of my favorite quotes of his is, "Talent hits the target nobody else can hit. Genius hits the target nobody else can see." So can you imagine these two guys, USC frat guys, persuaded these very, vivacious students at USC? They're all gorgeous. No, I'm joking, but persuaded college students at USC that they needed a dating app, and that is how Tinder. That's the loose story, the origin story of Tinder. I think that's nothing short of genius.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, they were all. Sorry, Dr. Jack, but they were all meeting there in person. Like, why use an app? But it started with pictures, and anyway, it exploded.
Mm-hmm.
I wish it had been.
I mean, Tinder is based on, do I like what I see? Because there's not a lengthy profile. It's like a Twitter feed. It's very short and sweet. You're limited to characters, and you just have, I like this face or I don't.
Exactly. And men are far more visual. I mean, again, a woman is not going to go out with somebody that she really is repulsed by his picture. But again, women, it's in our brains. Men are more visual in terms of sexual attraction. And we're the smarter sex. No, we are more full brain. It's not just the area of our brain that's boom, just like eyes looking at what does she look like? Even setups, right? When you're, when you're talking to somebody about a setup. So I love I unfortunately can't set up patients, but I do. No, my waiting room is great. I can't set up patients, but I love setting up my friends. And it's so in men and women. It's so interesting. So when I'm setting up guys with friends of mine, the guys immediately, what does she look like? And when I'm setting up the women, the first question is, what does he do? So I think that says something right there.
Very telling. Yes. We need to take a break and hear from some more sponsors. But Dr. Nancy Lee, when we come back, would you like to read from your book?
I would love to.
Excellent. All right. Stay with us for this fascinating discussion. We'll hear from some of our sponsors and we'll be right back. Located at 121 Haddon Avenue in Westmont, New Jersey, is Margie Cedrone, artisan jeweler. Margie's been in business for more than 30 years. She works with her clients to create custom pieces of jewelry to reflect their personality and help them make their own bold statement. Starting in the renowned Jewelers Row in Center City, Philadelphia in 1988, Margie works directly with her clients to develop one-of-a-kind pieces such as necklaces, engagement rings, wedding bands, unique watches and tennis bracelets, as well as a myriad of rings and earrings for everyone in your family. She also has worked directly with Dr. Jacalyn over the years, creating unique pieces of jewelry to reflect her personality. She does pearl stringing and repairs on site at 121 Haddon Avenue. Call or text Margie at 215-384-7155. Margie Sajone Jewelry is open by appointment only. Make your own bold statement.
Stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Hello and welcome back to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn. It's all about dating. Lisa Manyoky over here and our special guest, Dr. Nancy Lee, clinical psychologist and author of Don't Sleep With Him Yet, a badass guide to dating in 10 empowering steps. So which step are you going to share with us now?
Well, how about all of the steps? I thought I'd read something kind of interesting having to do with science, because this is something that, again, isn't necessarily there. It's something that I found when I was doing my research for the book. It's something that I found really exciting. I didn't know. So it's not broadly known, but I thought it might be kind of interesting for your viewers. It's something a little different.
Wonderful. We look forward to it.
Okay. So yeah, just a few lines. So finally, new research reveals that brain levels of dopamine keep rising as we pursue something we want badly. The longer the pursuit, the more dopamine that's released, lending excitement to the chase. Neuroscientists also suggest that when a reward, in this case sex, is delayed, those same dopamine-producing cells work even harder to stimulate and promote a stronger drive to attain the goal. Translation: if a man is physically attracted to you, but he has to wait for sex, he'll want you even more. That powerful dopamine-induced drive may also explain, in part, the lure of the unavailable. And by the way, that leads into my next section, which is, should you play hard to get? And the section after that is why we fall for bad boys. Section after that, men's romantic side. I could keep going. But I loved that finding about the longer the chase, or the harder we chase, the more dopamine. And dopamine is a neurotransmitter responsible for pleasure. We get that burst of dopamine when we have chocolate. We're not having drugs, but drugs do it. Anything giving pleasure. Money definitely releases dopamine. Sex also. But I thought that it was really interesting that the chase or waiting, as long as we're attracted to somebody, it makes it more and more exciting. More and more dopamine is released, and that's hot off the press research. And again, all the references are in the book.
All right. So what about the hard to get part? Because I think, before you can even determine whether or not you're going to sleep with them, there's the chase. So that feels very tactical to some people, and yet there's some sense to it. So where's the sweet spot?
Okay. So another study, because I was also, remember, my wisdom, my experience, my personal experiences in here, like when I was dating, by the way, and lots of patient stories. There's lots and lots of stories, but I wasn't going to just write a book off the top of the head, like my opinion. So when I was researching about, okay, hard to get, not hard to get, best study that I found was actually from a business school in China. And they gave the men like all sorts of simulations, like you like a woman and she doesn't return your text right away, or you like a woman and she gets back to you immediately, or you have to wait for a date. So this is what, and they did this study over and over and over. So this is what was found. If a man, so this is for the women, by the way, if a man has a little bit of interest, he's got to be interested in you already. Okay. So there's got to be a spark. If he's a little bit interested, then that chase it excites him even more. So I don't like the term game. I think, again, you should be yourself, but yet you don't have to be like I'm right there, I'm on it, I'm right there. A little bit of that tease and flirting and the like, wait, will she and won't she is really, really exciting. Now, if a man has no interest in you, okay, ladies, so listen up. If there's no interest and you start, playing hard to get, like he's going to turn off entirely. So if a guy has no interest, it's kind of like the reverse. You want to be warm and very accessible and there to at least get him going. So again, it's very situational. By the way, when a relationship progresses, and this is something that's very well known in psychology, you don't want to be like hard to get at all. As a relationship progresses, things like availability, loyalty, predictability, especially predictability, definitely trump the chase. Okay. So when you're in an ongoing relationship, please do not play games. Be there, respond. It's just, I'm talking about right to answer your question. I'm talking about right at the beginning of a relationship, like just at the beginning.
So, Dr. Lee, how long do you play hard to get? So it's the beginning of the relationship, but do you keep it going for a month? Is it a week? How many?
I wouldn't even call it, Dr. Jacalyn, with all due respect, I wouldn't even call it playing hard to get, but it just is more about like that flirty kind of, wait a minute, I like a little bit of that flirting, like maybe not returning a text immediately, right? Like every single time, saying you do want to get back to somebody and be respectful. I think it's very, very fast. It's when, as soon as two people are really feeling the connection, no games. You know what I mean? Like we're together, no games. But I'm saying like right at the beginning, it's like a little bit of that, the game tag, right? Somebody's chasing and you're it. And now we're it, right? We're together. You can drop that. Now, again, reading a lot of the research, if a woman is feeling unappreciated in a relationship, then not to call it, I just said don't call it games, and I'm calling it games, hello. But if a woman is feeling unappreciated in a relationship, then that kind of like, wait a minute, like notice me. And by the way, hard to get is also in psychology. Remember, I'm a psychologist, so I'm coming from a psychological framework. Being hard to get is also like showing a man that you are attractive to other men. Okay, so that's something that people don't think about. But in a relationship, hey, my guy isn't, I'm just saying hypothetically, oh, my guy's like not paying enough attention to me, he's taking me for granted. If he sees that other men are suddenly interested and hovering around, boom, works like a charm, he's on it. So there, and that's part of that whole chase kind of psychological phenomena.
Is that enough to keep him interested, or what if the pattern starts to go over and over again? That seems like it could be a lot of work.
Yeah, see, and that's why I say that's it exactly. No, like this is very short-lived. Those things, predictability, dependability, loyalty, kindness, all of that definitely supersede that whole game thing. And that, so yeah, it gets old really fast. So we're talking about before two people maybe really even have that connection.
And plus,
a true connection. Lisa,
won't that give you some time also? Like if you get fully immersed into constant texting and speaking hours on end of the phone, and then you find, oh my gosh, I really don't like this person. At least if you delay it, you're giving yourself some space to get your head in the game and keep it in the game, right?
It's such a good point. It's such a good point, because there also, when we're infatuated with somebody, there's a neurotransmitter called phenylethylamine. If anybody wants to Google it, just Google like the vegetable, the acronym capital P. I do air writing, capital P, capital E, capital A. And what it is when and this is men and women both, when we're really fully attracted to somebody, it's not just lust. We have to like really like them too. We get so, Lisa, like you said, like sometimes like so immersed, can't eat, can't sleep. We're just, it's called the love drug, because we're just thinking about this person, right? Like, oh my God, they didn't text. Oh no. Hello, my world is over. They didn't like text or get back to me, or they didn't call me. So yes, Lisa, very well said. It that kind of like, just taking a little step back, not necessarily being like right on it and right available, also gives people time to like get to know the person before like their whole brain chemistry takes over.
It's smart. It's just smart.
Very smart.
Yeah.
Dr. Lee, I'm wondering what research has shown, or your experience with your clients or your friends. So if you're in an area where people are relatively successful and women are successful. So are men turned off by a woman who's successful, or a woman who makes more money, or what is the whole thought about that? I know we're just talking in general terms.
It's a really interesting topic, and it comes up all the time. The right man is not turned off or intimidated by a successful woman. I really believe that they are not. They may look. It's the same kind of thing. I've talked to men, whether they're. I'm not distinguishing between in my office and out of office, and whether they're my patients or whether they're my friends. Men will often get very intimidated by like a drop dead gorgeous woman and feel like they can't necessarily approach her. No, if look, a man and a woman, who are like, starting to date, get to know each other. If the man is attracted, really attracted to the woman that he is dating, he will not be put off if she makes more money or is more successful than him. So ladies, don't tell you. And again, I'm in an area where lots of girl bosses, lots of really successful ladies. No, men are not turned off by your career or your success.
I'm wondering, and I don't think we have enough time to even broach this, but how the dynamics might change in a same-sex relationship. So if you have two women as partners or two men as partners, just how the whole dating, playing hard to get, and all, so I think that's another show.
That's another show. That's a great time. You know what? And it gives me time to research it. That's another show, and it's and it's really interesting you said that, because I get asked a lot. Well, there's a lot of data and science in here, and I do get asked by a lot of my gay friends and gay patients, wait, does the same thing applies? We're all human, but yeah, there definitely are different dynamics. One of the things, look, men have 20 times more testosterone than women, so so that may explain why, gay men like want to, they both want to have sex really right away. And that's again, something, ladies, to think about. Like, men have 20 times more testosterone than us. Like, we love sex, but I personally do not know any women that is thinking about sex all day long. I know men who think about sex or having sex or getting sex or who they're going to have sex with all day. I'm dead serious. And there's that testosterone. Another favorite topic. See, you guys have to stop me because I just keep
I don't
going.
know. Why would we?
Okay. But another really interesting kind of like fact about testosterone. So when women are in a great relationship, their sex drive, their libido, okay, so sex drive goes up. Whereas when men are in a secure, attached relationship, their mom, please, after the phone ringing, mom, like after my interview. So when no, I love my mom, but okay, when men are in a great secure relationship, unlike women, their libido goes down, and that tends to be nature's way of getting us kind of on the same plane. Like, we haven't talked about evolutionary psychology, but there's evolutionary psychology in my book as well. It's all about survival and propagating and having babies and all of that. So nature does these really cool things to our brain to make sure that we're going to have a lot of sex and a lot of babies. But anyway, so that's kind of interesting about that. I was thinking about it, going back to the question about, I wonder what would be different, in so for two men who are in a relationship.
I have about 50 questions.
Have me on again. We'll do part 2.
Excellent. One question I want to ask as we come to the top of the hour is, I've heard different things from people, but basically there's going to be a sexual revolution once we get out of the house fully and, COVID is at bay. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm going to tell you why I think we're not. Okay. Because, so there is one of my colleagues at UCLA, Dr. Patricia Greenfield. She's 90. She's wonderful. But she has done research showing that in the age group between 15, so about age 15 through about late 20s, any time in history that there has been a natural disaster. Okay. So, natural disaster, or trauma, that's a better way to put it. She points to, for example, the Great Depression. There was also a natural disaster in Japan years ago, and I'm forgetting what she was referencing, but values shift. Okay. So what's very interesting among all of that age group, like right now, so about mid-teens through late 20s, the values, and she's researched this, the values are very much like it's back to kind of like one partner and really getting to know somebody and being in love and even engagements. I was doing a panel at UCLA the other week, and one of the points, your brain on social distancing, optimizing psychology after the pandemic. And one of the things we're seeing is engagements during the pandemic skyrocketed. So, going back to the question, in Dr. Greenfield's study, it showed that those same values in that age group tended to persist when the trauma is over. So I actually think that people are going to be, especially in that age group, that people are going to be really almost more conservative and more, when I say conservative, maybe more selective about their choices. I don't think it's going to be like, oh, yay, we're free to we won't get germs anymore. We can sleep with or hook up with whoever we want. I don't, based on this research, I'm going to disagree with that, but we'll see. Time will tell, right?
Yes.
I think, yeah.
So we would love to have you back at least once. I hope you'll come back and join us because
oh my gosh, yes. Oh gosh, absolutely. Yeah, and like we didn't even get into, there's a whole chapter on, again, actionable tips for getting over heartbreak. My 10th chapter, but I should have read something from the 10th chapter. It's called Best Sex Ever, Your Choice, right? So the book, like anything having to do with dating, sex, my whole message is about having women and men, but honestly, since the book is for women, the book was written for women, but men, there's so much applied psychology that men have been giving it great reviews as well. But it's all about thriving while navigating dating and sex culture.
And your book is available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and mybooorders.com.
Right. And Amazon primarily, very easy. Barnes & Noble, it's at for LA people, it's at the Grove, and Barnes & Noble, also Barnes & Noble. They've sold out of it at Barnes & Noble about 5 times. So it's very cool. But barnesandnoble.com, you can check out my website. I have lots of stuff about the book and about me on my website. So
you've got a great website. Yes,
thank you.
Very easy to navigate. Dr. Lee, I know you're doing some work over on Clubhouse. Would you share with us what you're doing there?
Oh, cool. Yeah. So, my club on Clubhouse is called Get a Room, Dating and Mating. And I put together a panel of my favorite like dating experts for Sunday afternoons, including myself. And we 12:30 Pacific Standard Time, so that's 3:30 on the East Coast. So every Sunday we do a panel called Navigating Dating and Sex Culture, and there is a different topic. So a couple weeks ago it was Flirting 101. Last week it was all about sex, what your mother doesn't know. A couple weeks ago it was how not to be blindsided, how to cope when you are. A couple weeks before that, it was getting over heartbreak. So it's a very, the difference between our room and, and I have another psychologist who's a neuroscience, by the way, neuroscientist. I mean, that's actually like what he does. He's a neuroscientist. The difference between, say, this room and a lot of the other dating rooms on Clubhouse, yes, you'll be supported and you can share stories and things, but we're coming from it with a very psychological background, very data driven. So I've gotten some great people. People love the room. They're messaging because they're actually getting knowledge. So it's almost like you're listening to scientists as well as just having a lot of fun. So yeah, thank you for asking me that.
And I have to say, I believe that I heard you speak on Clubhouse and I reached out to you. So I want to just let people know, no, I'm not a Clubhouse sponsor. There's no money coming my way. But if you're not on Clubhouse, I don't know what you're doing. So you get to meet incredible people like Dr. Nancy Lee. And it's just a great way to collaborate and expand your knowledge and your network.
Yeah. And by the way, I have extra invitations. So anybody following me on Instagram, DM me and I can get, if somebody is not on Clubhouse, I can easily get an invitation for you. And by the way, I am passionate about what I do. I have tonight, I am seeing patients. I work in the office and on Zoom. I'm literally probably seeing patients till 10 o'clock at night and starting at 8 a.m. tomorrow. I love what I do. I do want to spread the word about my book because I believe in it. So anyhow, I love talking to you ladies. Love the topic. I want to come, now that it's open, I need to come to New York. Everybody's in New York. So,
well, your passion definitely comes through. I think that's quite evident. I was going to ask you, are you taking new clients or?
I have a short waiting list. But look, people can reach out to me via my website if they'd like. The waiting list is fairly short, and I try. You can see by the hours I work. I try to get. I say waiting list, and then okay, I'll get up 5 a.m. It's 8 a.m. on the East Coast. I'll do it, right? So yeah, I try to accommodate people.
That's wonderful. And Dr. Lee, for people who are listening on the radio, what is the best way that they can get in touch with you? The website, your Instagram?
I think the easiest way is probably my website and the submission form, or in Instagram DM as well. But sometimes I get so many, especially after that Sunday, I'm inundated with DMs. So sometimes I miss them. So probably website is probably best, and there's a submission form on there. And by the way, just a shout out to fellow Bachelor fans. I'm a super fan, and please go to Dr. Nancy's notes on my website. And if you're doing this on a phone, scroll and read the notes, because I have lots. I compare different Bachelor people to things in psychology. So it's for just anybody else who is a Bachelor or Bachelorette fan like me who might be watching.
That's so much fun. Thanks for sharing that tidbit. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure having you. I would let us continue on because we have our own channel, but I have a show right after this. So get a quick wardrobe change and I'll be back. But again, Dr. Nancy Lee, it has been a pleasure, a delight. I love having brilliant, accomplished, beautiful women on this program. So thank you for gracing our stage today.
You're too kind, but I'll take it. No, just kidding. Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful afternoon.
You too.
Thank you. And I'll reach out to you about coming back on the program.
I'd love to. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. We'll see you on Clubhouse on Sunday.
Oh, okay. That's right. Yeah. Come in. Yeah, join.
Definitely. Thank you. She is wonderful.
Hot topics, huh?
So many topics. I'm just getting started. I'm thinking maybe I'll start dating again. I don't know. It's just
now you know how.
Yeah, and I know who to call. So it's for sure. So
no, she makes really good points. And I think the huge takeaway is just slow down the train while you're on it,
Yes. My dad used to always tell me to play hard to get, and I never realized there was a science behind it. I thought it was just because I was daddy's little girl, he didn't want to lose me, but that's not the case. So
no, it's not. It's not, but she does make a good point that it's a short-lived phase, that it's not intended to go on indefinitely or for a specific amount of time. So that's when it's gamesmanship and nasty. But it's in the beginning, it's intrigue.
For sure. Yes, Ms. Manyoky, please let us know the best way to reach you.
Best way to reach me is go to presenceintelligence.com/daters. That's where you can learn more about the Presence Intelligence Alignment Inventory for daters.
Perfect. I found the banner just in time. There we go. And do you want to share with us the work you're doing over at RVN?
Yes. Oh, yes. On Wednesday mornings from 8 to 9, I co-host a variety show where my co-host Mark and I, we interview a number of different professionals. I mean, just this past week, we interviewed a physician who specializes in melanoma, and we've talked with technician people, you name it, soup to nuts. And we'll be hosting on June 15th. We'll actually be hosting the show from the beach.
How lovely is that? It's exciting.
Yep, RVN Television. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It's been a pleasure having you here as always, especially with this wonderful guest. I love that we get different viewpoints all the time. It gives us a lot of information to consider. And I'm going to get her book. I think it looks very interesting.
I think so, too. All righty. Yeah.
All right. Thank you again for being here.
Bye, all. See you next week.
Bye. Hi, everyone. Wow, we had a couple technology glitches today. Hopefully, the show went on as the show must. We have one more show coming up today. It's called A Better You, lessons from the best coaches, consultants, and trusted advisors. And I get so excited about this because it is a presentation show where experts come and present for 15 minutes. And I'm backstage frantically taking notes because I learned so much from all of these experts. There are people I have hand chosen to be on my team, and together we are building an online community of lessons that form a playlist. The lessons then accompany quizzes. You can take the quiz, you can get certified, you can play games when you're on the platform, and we're coming out with a rollout July the 1st. If you're an expert and you want to present, maybe you already have content that you've created over the years, maybe you've had trainings or workshops, and you would like to have your content on our platform, please reach out at drjacalyn.com, go to the Contact Us form, or you can go directly to abetteryou.tv. If I can find my banner, abetteryou.tv, and you can go ahead and book your session. Here's the website for, this is where all of the resources are for drjacalyn.com. If you want to be on our newsletter, we've got a lot of exciting things coming up. We've got an in-person event for 10,000 people. Our RFP is going to be, the responses are going to be coming back collected tomorrow, actually. So that's very exciting. We hope you'll join us the second or third week of October in 2022. Finally, I just want to announce my new book. My first book is coming out. I'm very excited. It's called Behind the Green Screen. I'll find the visual. How to Succeed in the Live Broadcasting Business. This is my how-to. How, without any experience, I built this platform. I've got 3 computers, a board, all these lights. And so I started out on Zoom with 1 show. And now I have 16 shows, and I am the producer, the director, the broadcast engineer, and the host. I have 10 co-hosts, and we have at least 16 guests every week. We've got one show where we have pretty much 5 different guests on the Celebrate Great Britain Royally Rich show. Thank you again for all of your support. We're really happy to have you. Please join our newsletter. Again, go to drjacalyn.com and go to the Contact Us section. We'll look forward to seeing you right around the corner with A Better You. And my presenter expert is Marissa Duprez, and she's joining us from New Zealand. So stay tuned. We'll see you again soon. Bye.